Once I let you know what my boundary is,
Yep.
this has become really imperative for me, is to realize that I'm watching how you move around my boundaries to let me know whether or not you deserve to still be in my life.
Yeah.
He's done miracles on me. Back again, he's done. Back again, he's done miracles. Back again, he's done miracles on me.
Why control? Why not freely have the experience and let us experience this together, and or decide whether we can experience this together and have a tough conversation about it?
Because most people don't want to take accountability that they're not showing up the way they deserve to show up, and or to have what they want out of a relationship. Like, there's a requirement of me to be in alignment with somebody that I'm giving forth the effort.
Yeah.
Like, we work hard enough just to fail at so many different things in life. So then it's like, well, I got to give an ultimatum, so either you in or you out, knowing that I didn't show up to be worthy of you to stay in. And it's like, damn. Like, and so now things that as I've been talking to more and more people in relationships, I realize I got to have a meeting with my board of directors in my next relationship. Like, listen, mama, we talking once a week,
Board of directors.
once a month, like quarterly and annually to reevaluate where we're at. So now the conversation around ultimatums aren't even necessary because we're putting things on the table consistently, coming to have our check-ins. Like,
it's QA.
Right, where you at? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
right
it's a really big deal, and I was like, damn, where else is that applicable though? It's not just in intimate relationships.
No,
Where else
across
is
the
that
board.
necessary? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Business relationships.
I feel like
Business,
in
friendship.
anything that
But
you-
before we
too.
deflect off that though,
Okay,
because
yeah,
you
go
guys
ahead.
kind of touched on it already, what is the difference then between setting a boundary and an ultimatum?
Setting a
Good
boundary,
question.
I feel, is that you've already let them know where everything stands. You know what I'm saying? I feel ultimatums is a lot of times when those happen is that somebody either comes into the situation or somehow they make that turn and it was never even spoken to the person. It's like, okay, this was going to be.
Exactly.
A lot of times is what it is. Not all the time, but a lot of times them ultimatums are something that comes in. And that's why Courtney, I can't remember what he used, but he used a different word, but I saw boundaries as far as that aspect of what he was explaining before. So I really believe is that for me, when you're going into a relationship, like once again, it's like, yo, I'll just use myself. So like me, I'm a very like go get it, execute type person. Like I get stuff done. And it's like, yo, so when I'm doing it and I'm in my grind mode, I have to sometimes be like, okay, let me make sure that everybody's good and stuff like that. So, but I always explain that to anybody that I come in a relationship, like, yo, this is what I got to take care of. This is what I do. I like to give everybody a heads up. So that's my boundaries of letting you know this is what it is.
Right.
Now, if I get too busy and you need something, because that's what the kids, I tell them. So I set the boundary of letting them know, look, I work a lot, I do all that, but I'm always open to you. Y'all get first one. So like I told my nephew Jeremiah, I spoke to him about like an hour and a half because I had a little free time, and he came in. I said open door policy. He understood, like when I was out and I was working and I was doing some things, he left me alone. But when I was sitting for a second, though I was kind of relaxing, he came in. He's like, yo, can we talk? And I was like, open door policy. So he understood the parameters of what's okay and what's not because it was already explained to him when he came in. Now, if it comes in and he be like, man, you talk to me now or unless I'm leaving.
Where you going, guys?
Less expenses,
young man.
Less expenses. Let me.
I had your backpack.
Nah,
you Uber?
I'm blessed. I love.
You can sleep in the tent out back for a little while. Get on your
It's
feet.
too hot. It's too hot.
So yeah, I definitely believe is that, and then as opposed, like you said, in the fork in the road. But when you love somebody, you'll never give them ultimatums. You'll just let them know. Now, here's the thing that I will say about ultimatums for my relationship. If you do something detrimentally on purpose to the relationship, then I'm like, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's have a talk. If you do it again, now I'm like, okay, now I got to understand. Which one are you doing? You want to be here or not?
But even then,
it comes to a point where it's not an ultimatum. It's still not an ultimatum at that point.
Oh,
Because you're having the conversation
Still a
and you're
boundary
letting them know
violation.
what the you're letting them know my fault. You're letting them know what the trespass is.
Yeah.
Once they know what the trespass is, we're in agreement. This is what the trespass was.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen no more. Are we in agreement on that? Yes. There we go.
So that's
It's
the
not an
difference
ultimatum.
between the boundary and the ultimatum.
It's the boundary. And
The boundary
ultimatum.
actually-
The boundary is what we both decide. This room is a boundary. Nobody will
Agreed.
leave. We both decided on that.
Yeah.
You in the room with me deciding nobody's gonna leave. You ain't said this out loud. You just said it in yourself. Nobody's leaving. Nobody's leaving. You get up and walk out because you about to go get a drink. Got to use the bathroom. Whatever. What you leaving for? Hold on for a second. We haven't even had this conversation. If you leave out that door, you can't come back in. Ultimatum.
That's a
Boundary.
whole- that
We've
is a
both decided
whole- I
that this
love
is
that
the boundary and
conversation.
we're not leaving. That's it.
Conversations.
And I think that ties into like the communication issues because a lot of women, not saying every woman, but a lot of women have conversations in their head.
don't
This
say
is
it out loud.
right, and then
And don't let us participate in that.
we don't
Yes.
allow
Oh, no,
participation.
we get invited in.
I
It'd be like
appreciate
2/3 of the way through with no context. And you be like,
I've learned.
with all due respect,
So
what is you talking about?
I have learned. I personally have learned. Sometimes I've backtracked and been like, "Oh, I didn't give context for that. Just ABC XYZ, my
Yes.
fault."
Yeah.
Yes.
I
She
stopped being
does it.
annoyed by it.
Because
I literally will
it's
just
become
ask,
universal.
can you give me context?
Give me context.
Exactly. It's preserved my peace in so many different ways. Because again, like King said, they are rolling in this conversation. And then an hour in, they go, "Oh, by the way," and you're like. So now I'm like, can you give me context?
See,
Not realizing that they did not give you the backstory because
Right.
in their mind you were in
You
the
were there.
conversation.
Yeah.
You were in
all the
it.
way.
was
You
a
were
part of
talking
it.
to.
Or it's like, no, because remember I told you like 2 weeks ago
2 weeks
about this
ago,
thing
yeah.
that
It's
happened.
like, yeah,
and
you
stuff.
did, but you didn't tell me right now that what you're referring to is that thing that you
Yeah.
talked about
Right.
2 weeks
Facts.
ago. So
It's such a big deal.
that's a very mature,
Like, oh, and-
communicative tool
Yeah.
that I think anybody should have at their
I'd be
disposal.
like, can you just give me context? I have
Yeah,
to
no,
practice
that's
it
it.
with my
That's-
mother.
I like
Right?
that.
She's like, I told you. I'm like, told me what?
Oh,
Can you give me context? And she's like, oh, when we were talking about this, oh, now I'm included.
these are real situations.
But I think the
bro.
extreme importance of boundaries, and I can only relate it, so it's perfect that you got it on the floor, in like sports context, like
Yeah.
a basketball court.
Yeah,
If you're playing in the game of basketball and you go out of bounds,
yeah,
you're not eliminated from the game.
right.
Right, like it's not an elimination from the game, and that's the space that I operate with boundaries, because now my boundaries are set, but I'm also going to communicate with you like, hey, you stepped on the line, like you're out of bounds.
Everybody
Yeah.
in the game knows what out of bounds is.
Exactly.
Right, and
You
so I'm
know-
just
you
gonna
know the
remind
parameters
you.
as to which we're playing with.
I'm going to remind you of the boundary. We
But-
need to stay within it.
An ultimatum is no longer than necessary because I also get to express to you, which I don't believe enough people do well enough, the severity of these boundaries.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because I have different boundaries that have
Correct.
different degrees of
Correct.
severity.
Fact.
Absolutely.
And it's like, these are my 5 non-negotiables.
Yep.
These you don't want to touch. And if you happen to touch them, based on your value in my life, I'm willing to give you a little leeway.
Yeah.
But if it becomes something that you just don't respect,
Yeah.
you have
You
to
have
go.
to
But
go.
you excluded yourself. I didn't
Right.
exclude you.
Absolutely.
This is
correct.
called the
Because you
habitual line stepper.
Habitual line
There you go.
stepper.
Some legs in.
Absolutely. Right? But if you touch on one of these, and something that's helped me a lot is being clear with my boundaries now, and then also letting people know where I'm at with working with on them.
See, I think that's
I
huge.
had to learn that I had a certain, like, I had attachment issues.
Yeah.
And so now when I'm engaged with somebody, I'm like, hey, just so you know, that kind of triggers my attachment issue. It's something I'm working on, but I just want you to know.
Right. So if you see me
Absolutely.
react a particular
Respect.
way to when you behave that way or say these things, it's not personal. It's something I'm working on, but I would like for you to be mindful of it so we can work through that moment
Right.
Even
of
some-
my emotion together.
Absolutely. Even something simple as like tone.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if I'm tired, hungry, or
Yeah.
annoyed and I'm short with you, I'll be like, hey, I might be hungry right now, but I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
But if you keep coming at me and you get bit, like,
That's you brought that on yourself.
Yeah,
'cause
like,
I told
I
you.
I told you I was
in a
hungry all
sharp
the
space.
time. Give me a burger.
I'm in,
Right?
I'm in a sharp space
Some
with no
Oreos.
resolution in
Yeah.
line for me right now. This is where I'm going to be. Can I operate in self control? Yes. I'm gonna give you the best that I've got. It still might not be good enough for you. Therefore, help me navigate this space. But I gotta be as open with my communication of why I'm in that space and that I'm in that space. That's huge. I love
It's been
that.
a
So
game
what it
changer.
sounds like is the big
Facts.
difference between a boundary and an ultimatum is respect. ultimately.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I don't
Respect
believe
and
that
communication.
I don't believe that people who render ultimatums respect the partner that they're giving it to.
They don't respect the relationship.
I believe that everything we've discussed that should predicate something as strong as an ultimatum, that's where respect is shown. And if that has been jumped over and we go straight to ultimatum, then you don't respect me enough for all the things that should have led up to something as strong as taking me on TV or giving me an ultimatum even privately, like to threaten something that I value. To control my behavior is a great sign of disrespect.
That is the word I was trying to figure out when we started this conversation earlier around ultimatums, is to feel threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're like, you'll leave.
Yeah.
Well, oh, you'll leave. What are you still doing here?
Good job. Good job.
But
The month lease is over. Don't worry, this the 30th. Like,
something else that really hit though around the conversation around boundaries. Once I let you know what my boundary is, this has become really imperative for me, is to realize that I'm watching how you move around my boundaries to let me know whether or not you deserve to still be in my life. Because when you establish boundaries or you're communicating with somebody and they're unwilling to work, because you don't have to be perfect, and so the other side of it is I'm enrolling you in my process. So I go, hey, this triggers my attachment issue. I'm working on it. Now, if you keep doing it, I'm trying to figure out, is this intentional or do I have to further enroll you in this? So I go, hey, if you communicate about this when it happens, that helps me work on it better, right? But now I'm watching how you move around my boundary, because if you continue to be a habitual line stepper, there's no respect here.
No, absolutely.
Because even though I'm working on it, you're not going to expedite the process by violating it consistently. And I think it's really important that we start to have those conversations with people.
And I think that's universal. Like, I know the majority of what we talk about tends to be relationship-based between man and woman, but I think even in our interpersonal relationships, if that was the case with any of us, I feel like that's a required conversation, and that should be respected. And if it's not, then we have to have either a conversation or definitely B, at least an internal evaluation of, do I want to continue walking this way with this person?
As a friendship, even on a
Absolutely,
friendship
absolutely
level.
correct.
And I've
Absolutely.
had that conversation with multiple people sitting here of like boundaries and whatever, and it's
Absolutely.
not, there's no love lost. It's just.
now, I want to mention this for the ladies. I know it's the love of men, but I want to mention this for the ladies. It's something I've witnessed from the watered down, freeloading, lizard face dudes that women may be with. So that's be my dad.
I don't think that's what he wanted to say.
It's only offensive if it applies. You
It's
know what
only
I'm saying?
offensive if it applies.
You
But
talking to me.
what I've realized is that, let's just use for example.
I just didn't know where you were going.
I was waiting.
Just
I got you.
more layers.
No,
When you got the lizard face, I was like, oh, God.
You did the whole shake too, like
I got something else too, because I got another analogy. If you're watching anything, let's just say basketball. You're watching basketball. You watch this person keep running out of bounds every single play. He's running out of bounds. He's running out of bounds. What usually happens to that person?
He get put out the game.
Okay, so when you come in the first part of training camp, you never make the team, right? So my point is, for women, oftentimes those out of bounds boundary lines they keep stepping over are red flags that they just disregard. So you get to give the ultimatum from jump. Like, don't wait till later and be like, okay, try to do this. Because what I've witnessed in times and in conversations is that women tend to try to fix that person. Once again, that's a form of control. If you're trying to fix that person, because they'll never amount to, if you're not willing to accept that person the way they are, if they're not working before you, they chilling, they not helping, they not pulling weight, they don't come in your house or try to do something to kind of contribute to the betterment of you, you should never want to even bring this person on your court in your life to give boundaries into. And sometimes I've watched it and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, you start learning with God, you learn when to not put your hand in the hungry lion's cage. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you're going to get bit and it's not your time. And I think so many times people want to come in there and say something. Sometimes they have to experience it for themselves because they want to have that in their lives. And sometimes I have watched some women just accept so much in life and they deserve so much more. And the thing is, they've settled or they think it. And it doesn't even have to be that they're lazy. It could be somebody in a high stature and just didn't treat them right because they just wanted to be a part of that. And that's why it's at the end of the day, you have to start really, really getting with God and praying and asking what's right for you. Because what you think is right for you may not line up with your list. It may not line up in your life. And you got to ask, because one thing I can say is that if you're growing and developing, like Marcus was talking about earlier, you're not going to accept that no more. You know what I'm saying? Because, and then you don't have to even give ultimatums or boundaries. I really believe if you have the right person, it will just flow like water naturally for you. They're going to naturally have your best concern. Like, you're coming in from work, ladies, and you're tired, and they may pick up, you know what I'm saying, watch today. I was off today. I'll take care of the dishes for you because I know you're going to cook, and I want to eat. So, I'm hungry, so we ain't nobody going to snap today. You know what I'm saying? So it's really when you start realizing just the way life is now, it's not like in the 50s. Like a lot of times with inflation the way it is, a lot of people have to work and contribute. Right. So then at that point, it's like, what am I good at? I'll do that. It don't even have to be cleaning. It could be something else. I'll just go take the cars and wash them or fill them up just so you don't have to. And you cook and you wash and then, all right, I'll vacuum the floor or move some pillows, you know what I'm saying? Or I'll make sure I take care of the kids because they coming home, they a lot, you know what I'm saying? Just so you can get some downtime. It's like whatever it takes. Yep, it's just partnership. Yes. You know what I'm saying? You should never want to have anybody in your life where you feel misused or mistreated. And those red flags are there from the beginning. And so all those dudes, those names that I've came up with the conversations I've had with ladies before.
Absolutely.
Let me say something real quick. Just to reiterate something. I said this before, and this is for anybody that wants to use this. Because I tell you, it has amazing results. Literally go in prayer and let him know, if this person is not for me, violently rip them from me. Make it amazingly apparent that this is not the person that's supposed to be here. And he will not play games with you. Stuff will literally just start rolling, happening, all that stuff. And if you are paying attention and you're just like, well, I'm just going to overlook this and I'm going to overlook that and I'm going to overlook this and I'm going to overlook. Don't do all that. Literally just pay attention to what starts happening. That stuff starts happening. Literally, you know what? This is probably not the one. Just let it go. Don't worry about it. Something better is going to come along. But if you keep holding on to something or someone, another one can't come in, especially if we're talking men, especially if that man that's supposed to be there, that you really be asking for, that you really want, because if you're already with the other one, they will literally look at you and keep on walking. Because that person isn't looking for somebody who's already with someone else. Right. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that.
Side dudes.
Yeah.
2 points to that, and I think it's really important, and it's extremely valuable from when you're looking out. Because I've now learned I bite my tongue unless you bring it to me and you actually want to have a transparent conversation. Because I then ask the question, do you want my real answer? Yeah. Right. Because I am adamantly annoyed and sick and tired of seeing women adopt a new child. Right? Like,
how do you feel about that?
Yo, it's probably one of the hardest things to do as a male friend of a woman or family member, to watch her adopt a stepson. Right? Like, if you take on a project and he is not operating in his masculinity and providing
and a project.
Yes. Oh my God, you guys are enablers to the nth degree. Women have become such powerful enablers. It's disgusting, because then you go, all men, and we're like, you picked up that little boy. Who told you to adopt him? If he's sitting on the couch playing video games and not going to work, driving your car, and not paying a bill, I mean, you don't have to pay all the bills, homie. You and your girl figure out what your situation is. But if you aren't able to provide, if you aren't able to protect, if you aren't able to profess, then you aren't operating in your masculine role. How can she be feminine? Right. And now you're wondering why she's trying to be on top of you and all this, because she's just adopted a new project.
And not in that way.
And you can't be in your greatness, so how can she be in her divine femininity to enhance what you bring to the table, because your ass don't bring nothing to the table.
Right.
And then the men who care about you say something, and ladies, this is some BS. I caught it. You cannot continue to backstab the men that care about you, that are willing to let you know that you're messing up, by going back to those little boys. Because now you have the conversations with those little boys, and them ninjas want to get out of pocket and look at us crazy because we were looking out for your best interest, knowing that he's just taking advantage of the situation and the environment as to which you've created. It is unacceptable.
I need
My name is Courtney Powell, and I approve this message.
I need more.
Like it's super important that we start to be able to have very transparent conversations. And to Shannon's point, it's extremely necessary to take it in prayer. But also, the Bible says faith without works is dead.
Get to moving.
So when he puts it on your heart, your feminine intuition is way powerful. It's extremely proficient. But you talk yourself out of it. When God's like, yo, you see how he's moving? This isn't for you. You be like, but I can make it work. I can help him here. Let me get him up on his feet. Let me apply for this loan. I'll take care of him. I'll pay the bills until he gets. If his ass isn't applying for jobs, I hate the word potential because of so many women being caught in this gap where they're like, but he has so much potential. Potential only exists if the person is doing something. Like you see a little child, you ever been to like a playground and you see kids playing and then you see that one kid that's fast as hell and he's spinning and jumping and black. He has potential in action because he's doing something. The kid sitting on his ass playing in the dirt, that's not potential. He's just getting dirty. And so we confuse it because we're like, they're like, no, time out. Because when he's talking to you, he's gassing you up, telling you what you want to hear. So his ability to have a mouthpiece doesn't mean that he has the abilities to execute and be what you need him to be. They're two drastically different things.
Absolutely.
I don't know if on the podcast, like at the end of the show or at the end of the month, after several episodes, you're gonna like give an award for like comment of the month. But I'm telling you,
That was it.
If you could put a star above his head when he starts that monologue, yeah, do that. Like I don't care what you're looking at. Yeah, like I don't care what y'all watching during the show. Make sure you watch Marcus during this part.
I
watched you. Like I literally watched you.
Just when you start popping off the last dragon glow.
You're not unlively in any sense of the word, but I watched you. Like your heart was on your sleeve just now. Like there was a passion in your voice as you delivered that sounded so authentic. And of course, I'm not saying that everything else that you say isn't authentic. What I'm saying is your own experience was being verbalized, and it was obvious to the rest of us that you were speaking from a place of sincerity, a place of, I've experienced this, and for the sake of every other woman not to experience what the people close to me had to experience, hear me. If you don't hear nothing else I say, hear this. Yeah, absolutely, man. So I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we as people men who really care and oversee the women in our lives get tired of the women keep getting misused.
Of course.
And of course we understand they sign up for it, and that's why we're speaking to them as opposed to their decision making, because we see it and they just disregard it. And so at some point you be like, man, like, you know what I'm saying, I can't want it for you, but you know what I'm saying, somebody listen. And if we could reach one person.
Make sure you subscribe and come back next week for the continuation of this conversation.
This is one of the conversations Mark and I were having. If you're not intuitive enough, self-analytical enough, and I don't mean like beating yourself up by self-analyzing. I just mean like taking the time to do inventory on you to see where you stand with something. Self-accountability, absolutely. If you're not in tune enough with yourself to recognize where you are in time and space with how you feel, your triggers, your emotions, what you come from, where you're headed, you certainly aren't in position to take that person that you know so little about into a partnership or a conglomerate with somebody else. Respect that other person enough to say, there's still so much I'm learning about me, and even though I'm extremely attracted to you, I don't feel like I would value you appropriately at this stage in my life.